Hello HSA, welcome to HSAIR. I'm your host, Bryan. We've got a great lineup on the show, covering farming and ranching, have some interviews, quotes, history items, plus some exciting news, an update from Camden. I hope you enjoy the show. We'd like to introduce a series of episodes that focus on HSA's interest groups. This month's edition spotlights farming and ranching, and our own Emilie C has recruited several members of HSA to tell us about cattle ranching, organic farming, making cheese, and keeping bees. We also have a story about a homeschool graduate in history who made it his primary goal to, quote, know plants. But before we discuss farming and ranching, I'd like to pass the show over to Camden Spieler, who has a 2008 HSA National Reunion update, as well as some other news about the Alumni Network.
Hi, this is Camden Spiller. Thank you again for tuning into HSAIR and the January edition of the HSA News Update. I hope you've had a wonderful January. I've enjoyed listening back through all the editions of HSAIR over the past year, and it's really amazing to see how the shows continue to develop. I really admire and appreciate the time and resources that Josh and his entire team has put into this show month after month. Well, 2008 has arrived, and with it, the plans for the National Reunion top the news this month. The National Reunion Planning Committee has been hard at work since last year, and believe it or not, it's almost time to open registration. Early registration will open tomorrow, February 1st. Everyone who registers in the month of February will also receive a little early bird registration gift. It's a free t-shirt from the new line of HSA shirts that will be featuring in the HSA store that's going to launch in March. These custom shirts will be available for purchase in the store, but you'll be among the first to receive one if you do register in February. I also have some exciting news about an event immediately after the National Reunion that we think a lot of people will be excited about. You can actually extend your reunion experience for an all-day tour of the Answers in Genesis Creation Museum immediately following the reunion on Monday, August 4th, 2008. We'll actually have a caravan arranged from the reunion. It's about an hour and a half away, maybe 2 hours. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to experience God's handiwork together. And if you haven't already heard about the Answers in Genesis Creation Museum, I definitely encourage you to check it out. You can go to creationmuseum.org or find more information on the HSA National Reunion blog later this month. The last piece of reunion-related news I have is about volunteering. We're still looking for volunteers, and there's quite a few areas you can help out with. You can find more information you can actually just go to the HSAIR blog and link from there, but you can go to the National Reunion website at homeschoolalumni.org/reunion and find the information about volunteering opportunities there. All right, on to a little news about the website. You guys have probably seen the Alumni Spotlight feature that we've had. It's the new blog that Emilie C has been maintaining since the end of last year, and the idea here is we feature different homeschool graduates and accomplishments, achievements in their lives, and give an opportunity to recognize those graduates and also just to kind of share who they are and share their story there. Be sure and check that out. There's a link on the side of the forums page. You'll see it says Alumni Spotlight. You can click there and read those stories. We're also looking for some more stories, more people to feature there. So check it out, and you'll find information there about how to nominate somebody to be featured there. And please do that. Contact Emilie Sanciola for more information. Also, in the forums, we're going to be adding 2 new subcategories. We talked a couple months ago about adding the family relationships forum, and we are going to go ahead and push forward with that. We got some great feedback about how there might be some potential overlap with the marriage and relationships topic in this family relationship forum there, and we've kind of had to do some thinking about this, seeing if maybe we should just kind of combine marriage and relationships and family relationships all into one. But I think in the final consensus, we have decided to go ahead and make them 2 distinct areas, just seeing that the marriage and relationships topics generally focus around marriage and dating and courtship and betrothal kind of relationships and all those issues that tend to kind of dominate in there. And so we'd like to give that its own space in the marriage and relationships forum and bring out this family relationships topic to just talk about the unique dynamics in homeschool families. Be those sibling relationships, be those parent-child relationships or extended family relationships. There's a lot of topics that we think could find a good home and a dedicated family relationships topic. So we hope you'll enjoy it. We're going to go ahead and give this a try and let us know what you think. The last bit of news I had is about HSA Abroad and the Israel tour. The tour is still in the works, and I know it's taken a while to get this together and get details out to everyone, but we are still planning to do this tour in the fall of 2008 here. We're shooting for September, and we're trying to keep it as economically accessible to everyone as possible. We know that just our demographic, a lot of young people, a lot of 20-somethings, a lot of us that may not have a lot of extra money to spend, but we really still want to take this time and opportunity to get out there and have these experiences, see the world around us. So again, I appreciate your patience in allowing us to get some details together, but we are shooting for September, and we'll have more information just as soon as we can. I hope you guys have a wonderful month. Lord bless you. Bye-bye.
Here's John Hudlow with a quote about farming.
Life on a farm is a school of patience. You can't hurry the crops or make an ox in 2 days. Henry Elaine.
And now, to begin our interviews, here's Emilie C. interviewing an HSA member discussing cattle ranching.
This is Emilie C. I'm here with Michael J. Welcome to HSAIR, Michael. To start out the interview, let me ask you about ranching. Has this been a long-time dream of yours to become a rancher?
Yep, actually, always wanted to be a cowboy ever since probably when I first saw the Roy Rogers and John Wayne movies, of course, but I've always wanted to work with some type of animal, mainly cows and horses, so...
How did that dream first start coming true?
Well, when I was over in Michigan, a guy I worked for when I lived in Oregon had a son, and he always wanted me to give him a call, and he was always after me, if you want to be a cowboy, just give my son a call and he'll probably hire you. So when I was over in Michigan, I couldn't find a job working with animals, so I gave him a call, and a couple weeks later, he wants me to come out and work for him, so...
For you, what's the best part of ranching?
Probably the horseback riding, I think. Or the brandings, too.
Branding is fun?
Oh, yes.
Why?
Why? Because you're flipping the sometimes little calves, sometimes big ones. Just, it's a good dirty work where you get blood on you and the rawhide, and you feel good, strong, and dirty when you're all done. It's a good feeling, so...
What's the worst part of ranching?
Probably me would be... Actually, probably changing wheel lines, actually, or else probably the feeding part, too, but still I'm happy with it because I'm outside.
What are your goals for your career, Michael? Where do you want to see yourself in the future?
Probably couple acres of my own, a little ranch, just a couple cows, not too many. Mainly, my main job I'd want to be would be a farrier, doing that full time, and also breaking horses. So doing a little bit of training on the side too. That's mainly what I want to do.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for talking to me and being on HSAIR today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Good day, America. This is Johnny. One of World War II's most extraordinary acts of heroism occurred on February 3, 1943, when the U.S. Army transport ship Dorchester was hit by a German torpedo off the coast of Greenland. As those on board rushed to abandon ship into the icy waters, it soon became apparent there were not enough life jackets to go around. 4 U.S. Army chaplains heroically removed their life jackets and handed them to the young soldiers choosing to go down with the ship. Our 9th President, William Henry Harrison, was born February 9, 1773 in Berkeley, Virginia. He took office on March 4, 1841, but tragically contracted pneumonia during his inaugural speech and died just 32 days later. Inventor Thomas Edison entered this world on February 11, 1847, in Milan, Ohio. Over the course of his lifetime, Edison acquired over 1,200 patents, including the movie camera and incandescent bulb. Perhaps his best-known quote is, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." How true is that? And now please join me for the all-new Spotlight into the Future feature. In 2017, the greatest singing sensation since the Von Trapps was introduced to America. Joshua and Pamela Van Vleet, with their only child, captured the hearts of Americans with their famous folk single, We Three V's, which soared to the top of the charts and dominated the #1 spot in Billboard magazine for 8 consecutive months. 3 years later saw the birth of twins to the Van Vleets, and America, followed by the rest of the world, affectionately dubbed the twins the Weevies. The Van Vleets soared to stardom, and in 2023 were named America's most famous homeschool family by the New York Times. That's all I have for today, folks. Johnny, good day.
The Cattleman's Prayer by Joe Beckstead, written in 1952. God, as you know, I am a cattleman, with quite a spread of cows and land. And though I proudly say, these cows are mine, and that my fence is on that line, I realize these things I own, when all is said, are just alone. For I know God, this great outdoors, and everything therein is yours. True, I buy or sell for loss or gain, and have learned well the cowman's game. But God, when I have gone astray, and you decide that I should pay, doesn't take me long to find how useless are these wares of mine, and just how small I really am here in the vastness of your plan. How many times I struggle all night long to save a cow when something's wrong, but when I fail and she's finally died, you take the cow, I get the hide. Or when my range is dry and bare, and I stand helpless in despair, without one thing that I can do, but pray and wait for help from you. So God, in knowing this the way I do, that all I own belongs to you, don't let me get unjustly proud and think I'm someone in a crowd, but help me care for this, your land, and all your cows that wear my brand, as well as every horse I ride, until I cross your great divide.
As homeschoolers, many of us have been taught from an early age the importance of eating healthy foods, and one of HSA's members gives his parents credit for introducing him to organic farming, which he discussed with Emily in our next interview.
I'm here with Stacy from Tennessee. Stacy, thanks so much for being willing to talk to me today.
Thank you, Emily. I'm thrilled to be here.
Now, Stacy, I know that you're an organic farmer, and I'd love to hear more about what that means. What is organic farming?
Sure. Well, that's actually a really good question. There has been a lot of debate as to legally what organic farming should be defined as. And right now, in order to sell produce as being certified organic in the U.S., you must be certified by the USDA as following their regulations. However, philosophically, I'm more interested in answering your question from that point of view, simply because that really gets at the heart of what organic agriculture is. Right. And philosophically, it's really pretty simple, though I'll give an example a little bit to show what I mean. It's really allowing the plant to grow using the biological processes that God created. It's really that simple. And for example, in conventional agriculture, we kind of think of feeding the plant using chemical fertilizers and applying them to the soil, and the plant takes up the nutrients from the soil, and the soil is more just a medium to hold the fertilizer until the plant needs it, and the plant's just sort of anchored in the soil. In organic agriculture, we think of feeding the soil in order to feed the plant, and by that I mean that there are actually billions of microbes in the soil that are responsible for absorbing free nutrients and holding them until the plant is ready for them. And so that would be an example of the difference in mentality in organic and conventional agriculture. There's kind of this perception that organic agriculture is doing nothing, just kind of going out in the back 40 and plowing up an area and not spraying and not fertilizing. But that's really not the case. It's really very scientific.
Stacy, how did you get into farming? What first drew your interest in that direction?
Well, I bet it wouldn't surprise you if I said that my parents had something to do with it. They were both had plant and animal backgrounds, and my dad was an organic gardener from long before I came along. My mom ran a horseback riding stable, so plants and animals run in the family. My dad would take me out to the garden when I was actually before I could walk, and would just take me around to pick or do miscellaneous stuff, and I have many enjoyable memories of being out there with him. So that's where my love of gardening first came from. When I was 12 or so, I kind of took over the family garden to Dad's delight. He was happy to see my interest. And when I was in the late teens, I started selling to some friends and family, some odds and ends. And when I was in my early 20s, I kind of started going to farmers markets and doing more aggressive marketing. So it basically grew from a small backyard pastime.
Now, Stacy, what is the best part of farming for you? Why do you like it so much?
Well, how long do we have? I can go on quite some time on this. Probably my number one reason is that I like to be out in God's creation. I feel that even though we are no longer in the perfect garden, that there are lots of benefits from being in the garden, and it helps keep our eyes on Him. At least it helps me too, when there's so many things that are necessary for my career's prosperity that depend on His creation. And so that would be number one. Number two would be that I enjoy the family business potential of a small farm. If I marry and have kids, I would like to be able to incorporate them into the enterprise should they be interested, and that's important to me. Farming is a very family-friendly enterprise, if especially sustainable farming, and so that's a very strong second item of importance to me. And the third thing would be that I just enjoy doing it, and there are tons of people out there who are not able to or have not chosen to, for whatever reason, to pursue as a career the interest that they really have. And so I feel blessed to be able to do that. We all don't. Every day I don't get up and just feel thrilled about what I do, because no one does every day, but I'm really blessed to be able to pursue something that as a base I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's neat. Well, tell me about your ultimate goals for your career and the future that you want to make with it.
You know, vision is an important part of being an entrepreneur and life in general. And so I do have some dreams that I hope and pray will come true. One of them is that probably the number one in relation to my career is that I would like to see other young people pursue farming as an occupation. It's very important that we don't lose our agrarian roots that our country was really founded on, from the Pilgrims to the pioneers and beyond, our country has been run from agrarian farming activities, and so it's important that we don't lose that. There's been kind of an information gap from our great-great-grandparents and the things they knew about farming and stewardship of the land that we have not gotten passed down to our generation in a similar way to how our parents had to unearth some of the concepts of homeschooling that really should have been preferably passed down from generation to generation. So that's something that I would like to see, that my efforts not end with me, basically, and that people don't make the same mistakes that I make, especially young people. You know, anybody who is interested in farming, I'd love to help out, but I really would like other young people to see it as a viable career, and I want to see farming stand alone, not be dependent on government subsidies. I just read just a couple days ago that the USDA, the U.S. government subsidizes big cotton growers with $19 billion a year. And it's important that farming be an enterprise that stands alone and is self-supporting for our economy, in my opinion. So that's one thing I'm interested in pursuing. I'm interested in helping with developing plant and animal genetics that are suitable for organic agriculture, because lots of the species that we use today have been developed in conventional systems, and to some extent they can be dependent on those systems. So there can be improvement made by developing varieties that are well adapted to organic agriculture. So those would be a couple areas that I would like to pursue for the future.
Well, it's been really neat to get a glimpse into your life and to hear about how you got into farming. And I know that our whole country relies a lot on farmers, and just want to thank you for doing what you're doing, and also thank you for being on HSAIR today.
Thank you, Emily. I'm really glad that I was able to be, and want to encourage people to drop by the Farm and Ranch group on HSA. It needs some action, and love to see everyone around HSA.
And now, to go along with our theme, we have Lincoln Thompson to share with us the history and process behind the making of cheese.
Cheese was first made a long time ago in a faraway place by a person you have never met. It's old. Cheese is curds that have sat on the shelf for a long time. Curd is clumped up milk protein. There are many kinds of cheese. England has 700 kinds. France and Italy each have 400. Cheese can be hard, soft, creamy, rubbery, spicy, mild, bland, buttery, innocuous, rich, sharp, salty, delicate, smelly, or yummy. Cheese making is a creative art. How do you make cheese? If you put acid and rennet in whole milk, then the water separates from the milk solids. The water is called whey. The clumped up solids are mostly made up of a protein called casein. These clumps of casein are called curds. The acid can be vinegar or lemon juice or even lactic acid produced by bacteria. Rennet is made from the lining of the stomach of a cow. You stir or knead the curd like bread dough. You flavor it with salt or hot peppers or other things. Brand new curd is kinda rubbery. And you let it sit on a shelf days or years to age the curds. Then you have yummy cheese. You can also curdle milk by just setting the milk on a counter for a real long time without adding rennet. Natural bacteria grows. That makes sour milk cheese. Make this kind at your own risk. You never know what you'll get. No one knows how long ago or how far away cheese was first made. But my idea is that Adam left a cup of milk on the counter for too long, then added salt to make it taste better. The first mention of cheese in the Bible is Genesis 18:8, when the 3 angels of the Lord came to tell Abraham that he would have a baby. Abraham fed the angels curds, beef, and milk, perhaps in the form of a beef pizza or cheeseburger and a cup of milk. Notice the angels ate dairy and meat at the same meal. Not kosher, huh? Make a note of the difference between butter and cheese curds. Butter is the collection of clumped milk oil, which is made by stirring the cream that is skimmed from the top of raw milk. Cheese curds are made up of clumped milk protein made by adding rennet and acid to whole milk. Cheese is in history. It is on the Egyptian tomb murals. It was real common in Roman times, and it was on the pizza you ate yesterday. So next time you are at the store and can't decide between the several hundred types of cheeses, just remember Lincoln's advice. Get mild cheddar.
Cowboy stuff is merely a phase which boys pass through, like playing Indians or soldiers, only some of them never grow up. Archer B. Gilfillan.
Now that we've discussed ranching and organic farming, we'd like to talk about a different form of agriculture, beekeeping.
Hi, this is Emilie C, and I'm here with Kamon Reynolds. Kamon, thank you so much for being with us on HSAIR today.
Well, thank you very much, Emily, for having me.
Now, Kamon, I know you're a beekeeper. How did you get into beekeeping? Is that a hobby for you, or is it your whole business?
To make a long story short, I've always been an entrepreneur. Since I was little, I've always been working, staying productive, unknowingly devoting myself to do something of futuristic worth. I've never really been concerned about things that are cool or fit in because my personality really doesn't. So when we started getting more health conscious and Mom starting to have to go off of granulated and artificial sugars, honey popped into mind. My grandpa Jim is the one that little by little turned my spark of interest into a blaze. He is a friend that owns a small nut and fruit farm by Indianapolis and keeps 5 hives of bees for pollination and honey. He would bring honey to us from his farm on one of his frequent visits, meanwhile giving me access to little bits of information he picked up from his buddy. Once I also learned that local honey was scarce. Beekeepers were getting out of the business and colonies were disappearing, so that caused prices to soar. And so once my grandpa got me going, it was all or nothing. I've chosen from the beginning to keep my bees naturally with no chemicals or anything plastic. Information on the subject is a little limited and the surface has been scratched, so one of my goals is actually to get more information out there so more people will be more comfortable getting into beekeeping and not worrying about the chemicals and contamination.
Kamon, what would you say to someone wanting to get into beekeeping? What advice would you have for them?
Well, like any other thing that I would advise, if you're wanting to do something, it's just like school. They have school for a reason, and books is the best place to find information. Now, if someone wants to get into beekeeping and they're on HSA or anything else, I always got an email. I love to chat about bees.
Kamon, what's your favorite part about beekeeping? Why do you like it?
Well, I can really not pinpoint it to any one thing, Emily. There are such amazing creatures. Some reasons that come to mind, though, are all the unexpected variables of beekeeping. I enjoy beekeeping because it's never the same twice. Each hive is different and each queen is different. But I think the most amazing sight that I've seen in all my life, whether it was in picture or in person, would be a swarm of honeybees. To have a swarm of 40 to 50,000 bees and having the air so thick with them that if you swatted your hand, you'd probably hit 100 of them. It's just that I can feel God's presence, and He is so evident, and every time I get in the beehive, it just reminds me how small I am. And that, to me, is just amazing.
Speaking of swarms, are there any common misconceptions people have about beekeeping?
Yes, Hollywood likes to blow bees out of proportion quite a bit. Hollywood likes to take small things like spiders or anything like that, and, they're poisonous, they're dangerous, they're all poisonous and dangerous. What most people don't know is all these few bee stories are from the Africanized bees that are originated in Africa. They've moved to South America, and they are in some parts of the United States. But for the most part, unless you just really give them a hard time real close within a couple feet of the hive, they won't seek you out. Bees do not want to seek a fight, for one, because when bees sting you, they will die. And so the only time they will sting you is when you were invading or getting too close to the hive. The reason the Africanized bees are so aggressive is because over here our bees don't really have a whole lot of threats except black bears, grizzly bears, and skunks. Now over there they have like the honeybeak. It's a tropical bird, and they'll break into their hives, and they're immune to bees and all kinds of different animals and millions of ants that'll just come and attack them, so they have to be aggressive. One cool thing, though, that most people don't realize about the Africanized bees is that they are like a super bee. The mites that are going around aren't stopping these bees. They aren't the diseases. They're not susceptible to diseases. That's why they're proliferating so fast in the South America states and even in New Mexico and Arizona, is because the queen can lay up to like 1,500 more eggs a day. They can produce more honey. The bees live longer. The common misconception, and they are more aggressive, but unless you really just go seeking for trouble, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get it.
To wrap up this interview, what are your goals for your beekeeping?
Well, Emily, my first goal is to keep my bees and learn how to use them naturally, not to manipulate the bees like a lot of people are promoting nowadays, but to naturally use it as close as I can to the way God has designed them in nature. A lot of people have started using plastic foundations and using like a chemotherapy treatment to kill the mites instead of learning about the mites and how they attack the bees. In the 60s, beekeepers increased the cell size, and that's how bees, the size of the bee is judged. If there's a big cell, then it'll become a drone or a big worker. So they increased it by 1 millimeter, thus creating a bigger bee. So thinking bigger bee, more honey. The fact of the matter is, though, when they did that, it became more susceptible to diseases. And the varroa mite really likes big cells because they can lay up to 2 times more eggs more successfully. And everything is just a lot easier for them. And the bees are more susceptible to the other mites that can get into their lungs because they're bigger. So one thing is to try to eventually get my bees back to the normal size cell. And another one of my, I guess, aspirations or goals is to produce honey for people like my mom who need a healthy, healing, and alternative sugar. One thing a lot of people don't know is, a lot of people don't like honey because they get the stuff in the store and it all tastes the same and it doesn't taste that great. And the thing is, they heat it up to a certain temperature to where it'll never granulate. But then it kills all the other little sugars and the enzymes and all the things that are really good for you. So then scientists will say in the labs, you might as well not eat honey because it's not any better for you than white sugar. Which, once you heat it up to that temperature, you kill everything except the glucose and sugar crystals. And so you're pretty much just drinking sugar water when you get the honey from the store. So I'm wanting to deliver my customers that and the people around here. My goal overall throughout the whole farm is to produce food that will heal the body using mineralizations in the soil, using natural ways doing bees, getting people's eating habits right so they don't have to use medicines, and stop the degeneration that's going through all these people like cancers and tumors. And of course, above all other things, to bring glory to God through all this.
Wow, that is great. It has been just fascinating to get a glimpse into what it is you do. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me today.
Jinglin the Horse's Home by Janet Moore. There is a place my mind may wander, when the world starts closing in, to a time when I was younger and we neighbored work with friends. Whenever the day had come to a close and the work was over and done, and all the neighbors were heading back, I'd jingle the horses home. On a starry night, if the moon was bright, the world was peaceful and still, I'd gather up the cabbie and head 'em down the hill. They'd line out from a work-hard day and gently plod along, and the rhythm of their moving feet made a smooth and quiet song. And the night sound, soft and peaceful, made our spirits fly as we breathed deep of contentment under the starry sky. Just me and the Lord and them horses, in a night filled with wondrous peace, bone weary from a day's hard work, yet the wonder did not cease. Yes, there's a place I go in memory when the world's load is too heavy to bear, to a place of peace and contentment that them ponies and I did share. I think back to that time of my youth and the job that fell to me, and even now I have to smile at that happy memory. Whenever the world starts closing in and my mind begins to roam, I travel back to my younger years and jingling them horses home.
One of the finest agricultural pioneers of all times was also a homeschool graduate, and here's his story.
This edition of HSAIR spotlights a homeschool graduate named George, who was born a slave in Missouri near the end of the Civil War. He was orphaned at a young age, but was raised by his kindly ex-slave owners, who taught George to read and spell. George was a frail and delicate child, yet comical and prankish. Most of all, he was full of an insatiable curiosity about the world and how it worked. To gratify his thirst for knowledge, he explored the woods near his home, learning about plants, insects, and animals. "I literally lived in the woods," he later wrote. "I wanted to know every strange stone, flower, insect, bird, or beast." George had a talent for nursing sick plants back to health, which earned him the nickname the Plant Doctor. He experimented with mixing flowers by planting them close together, hoping they would mix, and brooded over questions such as how roses became double, why the clover folded at night, and what insects were doing in the flowers. His quick mind was always saying, "I want to know," followed by, "I can do that." He was always in search of education, and obtained it in any way he could, whether it was by reading his Bible, Webster's Blueback Speller, or copies of Little Women and Little Men. Driven by his quest to know and understand the world, combined with his positive and cheerful attitude, George managed to go to school whenever possible. He sandwiched his schooling between work and learned with extraordinary rapidity, working steadily at whatever opportunities for learning he had. George eventually graduated from Iowa State Agricultural College, being the first black student ever enrolled there. George had a passionate interest in helping poor Southern farmers, teaching them farming techniques such as systematic crop rotation, as well as promoting alternative crops to cotton. He also founded a research laboratory to discover new industrial uses for agricultural products. This homeschool graduate spent his life as a botanical researcher and agronomy educator. His love for nature and growing things greatly aided the agricultural community of his time, and he was able to help many people with his useful discoveries and his humanitarianism. George Washington Carver was introduced to Jesus early in life through an African Methodist church. His faith became foundational in how he approached his scientific research, and he referred to God as Mr. Creator, reasoning that the same God who created the universe created the laws that governed it. He testified on many occasions that his faith in Jesus was the only mechanism by which he could effectively pursue and perform the art of science. On his grave was written the simplest and most meaningful summary of his life. He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world.
When tillage begins, other arts follow. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of human civilization. Daniel Webster.
And that's all we have, folks. Until next time, I'm your host, Ryan Bruce. After this show, the HSAIR staff will be working on some new exciting changes for HSAIR. In the meantime, we'll be taking a brief break from producing any more shows. Please stay tuned for more announcements as we make progress, and be ready to provide us with your valuable opinions.
Hello, all you HSA people. Do you know who I am? I'm this month's Mystery Guest. What's that? You want to know my real name? Well, I can't tell you right now, but if you think you can guess it, head on over to the Mystery Guest poll in the foyer. There's going to be 4 options for you to choose from, myself and 3 other people. Vote for who you think I am, and check back later to see if you're right. It's as simple as that. Thank you for participating in this month's Mystery Guest, and I'll see you around HSA.